Before we get going into your Hockey IQ podcast episode, I want to thank our sponsor, Rapid Shot. Rapid Shot is the smart shooting lane. It's like a batting cage for hockey players. Very cool. Tracks your shot in three ways: accuracy, shot speed, and reaction time. Easy to use. Actually, I used it when I played and was growing up. Very easy. Simply scan your phone in, select your settings, and start shooting. You can see your stats on the app and online. You can check them out at rapidshot.com. Great small business. I actually grew up with one of the owner's sons and have played with all the family members by now, just in local pickups here in Ohio. Very cool local business. Awesome product. I love it. I know quite a few NHLers have them in their homes. A lot of D1 programs have it at their rinks. So you have to check this out. Rapidshot.com. Check it out. Rapid Shot, thank you so much for sponsoring our podcast.
On the Hockey IQ podcast today, we bring on Ryan Kosecki, co-general manager of the Youngstown Phantoms, and a whole long list of other titles that I'll let Ryan talk about. But Ryan, glad to get you on, connected through Neil Conway, the best goalie coach outside of the NHL. I probably shouldn't say that because we got to make sure he stays in Youngstown.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on. I'm super excited to be here.
All right, so you're with the Phantoms, but maybe just give us a quick rundown of the other roles and responsibilities that you have, because they all kind of feed into developing the one of the best, if not the best, current junior hockey setups.
Yeah, so Blackbird Sports Group, we own three different junior teams in three different leagues, in the Mercer Chiefs, in the Maryland Blackbirds of the North American League, and then the Youngstown Phantoms. So Jason Deskins and I are in charge of all three. And then I also coach at Fox Motors AAA in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And then I got my start in at TPH being a skills coach at TPH Grand Rapids, which is right at Southside Ice Arena, right where Fox Motors plays out of. And so I still work there, one day a week, helping out there, and it all kind of goes together. I do all my scouting when I'm coaching with Fox Motors for Youngstown, and everything just kind of circular and feeds each other, and trying to make Youngstown the best place to play in all junior hockey.
All right, let's run down and dive deeper into these. So I find Youngstown to be one of those interesting stories because most teams are looking to get the best possible talent, which usually ends up being an older team, and that's how they win. And I've seen a lot of that in the USHL, but recently with the Chicago Steel, they've gotten younger and won. And then you guys have gotten younger and won. So you're winning a championship with the youngest roster in the USHL, which is amazing. So I'm curious why you guys decided that, okay, we're going to go younger with our roster construction, and that's the way we're going to go towards victory.
Yeah, I think when Jason and I took over, we knew there were a lot of changes we had to make, off the ice and then with the talent on the ice. And one thing that we wanted to do was, we've seen the success of the United States Development Program throughout the years, and those kids are always the youngest kids in the league every year, and then by the end of the year, they're the best team in the league. And the second year, they're better than everybody else. And so um, we really wanted to have an emphasis on young, smart, talented players, and we felt that that's how you could win in the USHL, and mixed in other kids with experience. A lot of it came down to experience and not necessarily age, is the research that we did. And so that second year, we had the youngest roster in the USHL, and we were able to win a Clark Cup championship, the first one um, in in Youngstown Phantoms history. And it was 2 years removed from when we took over. They had the fewest wins, I believe, in the USHL history. Granted, that was the COVID year and everything, but I think they had 11 or 12 wins that year. And so 2 years later, we were able to put together a Clark Cup championship and bring the first championship to Youngstown in ever as a team or in the USHL. So and then this year we had the youngest team again, and we had a few bad injuries, season-ending injuries throughout the year that hurt us. Otherwise, we think we would have been right there again competing for another Clark Cup championship, and we feel that the way we're doing things, it just kind of feeds itself every year, and We don't have to make a huge overhaul of the roster, and we just fill a couple voids here and there, and keep getting those young, smart players, and it'll help itself. And we'll continue to be competitive every year. And most importantly, we'll be developing high-end young hockey players. Yet last year we had 6 NHL draft picks, which was the all-time USHL record for players on a current roster. Um, and so it's a testament to what we did with having such a young, smart, skilled roster, and then our coaching staff, and the best owners in hockey.
Ooh, okay. So we got some things here to dig into. I think the
Absolutely.
first keynote was that you said there was evidence showing that experience was the key factor, not age.
Yeah, so when we looked at past championships, what we had saw was that it wasn't necessarily the 20-year-olds that were winning the championships. It was experience in the USHL that was winning championships. It's games played, which really is a big thing for us that we wanted to look at. And so, we felt that when you mix in those high-end skilled kids, no matter their age, that's where you really, really get those the excel. It's a 2-year league. And a lot of times it's a 3-year league. It's the best junior league in the world, and so that's where we thought that it didn't matter age, it mattered experience and skill and hockey IQ, and obviously IQ being the most important thing in all of hockey. Those are the kids that we wanted to fill our roster with.
All right. So you're saying hockey IQ, which I mean, come on, could you do a better promotion of my newsletter and podcast? Let's talk about that now. So you're trying to fill with young, smart players. So obviously you're doing some scouting when you're coaching your U15 or U16 team, depending on the year. What is it that you guys are noticing? Like says, oh, hey, this kid is a smart young player. This is a player that we want to target for our entire organization, whether it be Youngstown or in the Null or with Mercer.
So for me, like the biggest thing, and I tell my kids that I coach, and I tell my son this, like the two things I look for when I go scout kids is, do you make your teammates better, and can you make plays when you don't have time? Those are the things that I look for the most. Like a lot of times, especially with youth on the youth hockey side, I feel like people get enamored with the bigger, stronger, faster kid who's just maybe hit puberty before everybody else, or is just, like I said, he's just bigger and more skilled than everybody else. But the thing that I look for when I'm scouting is, do you make your teammates better? Can you think the game? Can you make that play that no one else sees, that pass that no one else sees, that cutback to the late guy and stuff like that. Those are the things that I'm looking for, like how you think the game. Do you play the game with your head up? Um, IQ is so much more important than every other thing in hockey, that it's not even close. I laugh at these NHL guys a lot of times when they're always about skating, 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 and like I said, the youth side, we get enamored with the kid who scores more points than everybody else or is bigger than everybody else, and I want those high hockey IQ guys who are thinking the game at all times, who make that play that no one else in the building would play or make, excuse me, and who are constantly scanning the ice, thinking the ice, and who make their teams better.
All right. Scanning the ice, something that we've talked about, I think, ad nauseum at this point on the newsletter. But clearly it is absolutely massive. Like the kids that scan the ice probably value information, and they're probably thinking like it's one of those dominoes. Okay, you see a kid scanning at a really good clip that probably leads to a good point of where we're going. It's almost like that cheat code slightly. Obviously, there's many other items, but it's one of those hints for players.
Yeah, and I mean it's funny. Like when I was coaching in Muskegon, I was on the bench against Jack Hughes, and I tell people all the time, I'm like, I've coached against or coached players that are as skilled as Jack Hughes. But what makes Jack Hughes so good is his head is so up that I tell him the analogy I give is that he knows what you're going to do before you know what you're going to do, because Jack Hughes' head is up and he's scanning so much, and so when when you're scanning with and without the puck, because you'll get kids that don't scan without the puck. So they're shoulder check, maybe once before they get it. And then you get the kids that can do all three, that scan with the puck. They're constantly seeing where the opponents are, where their teammates are. And so when you can scan without the puck, which shoulder checking is obviously, and then scan with the puck, it slows down the game and you just see the game at a different level. And I had one of my former players who's, um, say this to me one time, and it's so true. One of the hardest things to do in hockey is one of the most important, and that's teach kids to play with their head up. And it's such a good saying that I use it all the time. Like, so, and it's so true. Like like if you do drills during the summer and you have young kids, I don't care what drill you do, like do dumb things, like over exaggerate your head being up. A drill I did with my U15 a couple weeks ago, we have a bunch of, college banners. And so when they were coming in to shoot the puck, I made them yell the color and the college on the banner that's, up on the ceiling, or not the ceiling, on the wall behind the net. So as they're coming in to shoot, it's forcing them to shoot with their head up. So I could care what drill they did, but while they're shooting, they're saying orange, Davenport, and purple Aquinas as they're shooting. So it's teaching them, to play the game with their head up. And if there's one thing I can teach my son when he listens to me, is that to play the game with your head up and over exaggerate your head up, because it'll just help you so much when you're older.
I feel like it's the thing I yell at my kids the most is like making sure we get head up, or I'll just like put myself in a random spot in the drill. That's completely inconvenient. But if you're not having your head up, you'll run right into me. And it's so super obvious. It's another reason why I'm trying to get rid of my whistle as much as humanly possible. Like start a drill just by players like locking eyes and figuring things out together and like just having a general awareness.
Yeah, and like
I find like the off ice piece too of just like having kids acknowledge their teammates when they walk into a room. Just like that simple step of like, oh, I'm not just blinders on at all times. Like expand the horizons.
Yeah, and like there's so many different things you can do nowadays. I do one with my defenseman where I'll stand to the side of the net and I'll hold up numbers. And when they're walking the blue line, they got to say what number I'm holding up my hand. And then, so that's working on them to keep their head up. And then I do it with the forwards, um, scanning. So they'll go up the ice going through cones and I'll stand behind them and hold up numbers. And they have to, 3, 2, 1, whatever number I'm holding up my hand. So what is that teaching them to do as they're skating up the ice? It's teaching them to scan backwards and scan the whole ice. So it's just something that, to train their brains, just a little bit differently.
Yeah, everything's about taking in information. The best way a hockey player can do it is obviously through their eyes. So no matter how we get there, like it's such it's one of those domino skills where it opens up so much more. So love that.
Absolutely.
Diving into kind of like the evolution of the organization, right? So as you've come into the Phantoms organization, obviously you're going to take in like, okay, what do we have? What maybe do I want to change? How have you evolved from an organizational standpoint to provide that alignment that allows these young players to develop? Obviously, you're not going to keep the same stuff that happened for a team that lost a record number of games or won the least amount ever.
Yeah. So I think the first thing is we have the best owners in all of junior hockey, and Bruce Olin and Murray Gunty, and they support us, um, not only with everything we do, but financially, which is the biggest thing is, junior hockey. People that are involved in junior hockey aren't involved in junior hockey to make money. And so, we just, Jason and I noticed some things that needed change and that we needed to make better. Um, the first thing we did was hire Ryan Ward, who, like I think a lot of people questioned us when we made that hire, because Ryan didn't have a big playing career. And in fact, I don't even know if he really played. I think he played high school, growing up in Roline. But the thing um, that we saw in Ryan was he thought the game like us, the modern day game, possession style, and he wasn't afraid to play young players and lose games that maybe we should have won during the regular season, um, to sacrifice that development with those young players. And then off the ice, like I said, we had the support of our ownership. So our ownership purchased our practice rink. So now we play at the Cavelli Center out of Youngstown. As you know, sometimes Youngstown, the Cavelli Center will have concerts and circuses. So we got to get out of there. So we have a locker room at Cavelli, and then we have now we have our practice rink at Deep Freeze. So we have unlimited ice until 3 p.m. every day. We have unlimited ice. So we built a brand new state of the art weight room. We built a recovery room at Deep Freeze. We have a full-time strength coach in Tommy Malloy. We have a full-time equipment manager, we have a full-time trainer. And one thing that we have that separates us from everybody else, in my opinion, in junior hockey, is we have a full-time skills coach in Carl Linden. So our kids have every single resource imaginable um, at their fingertips in Youngstown every day. So, a normal day, our kids will get on the ice. They'll have a skill skate at 9 a.m. Another group will go work out. Then they'll flip flop. The group that worked out will go on the ice for a skill skate. The group that was in the skill skate will work out. They'll do team video. Then they have practice. And so it's unlimited ice, it's unlimited resources, so that when you leave Youngstown after your 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, and you're our age, you can look back and say, Youngstown helped me become the best hockey player I can be. And it was the 2 or 3 best years of my life. And so we don't want those kids to have an excuse as to why they didn't reach their potential. And having our unlimited ice at our practice rink, a full-time strength coach, a full-time skills coach, there's really nothing, no stone left unturned is the best analogy I could give.
Yeah, truly. And I think well, we'll start with your head coach, right? Like, so he's going to drive a lot of the bus on some of these things. And you look, even on elite prospects, you can't find any playing career whatsoever. And then he was a video coach in the NHL for a little bit. Then he was coaching as an assistant in the OHL, did some video work. Then he was doing U15 AAA, doing some player development stuff with the USHL. I mean, like, clearly this guy was grinding out, understanding, studying the game, and being ready for that opportunity, and clearly took it and ran with it. What's kind of the importance of video? Obviously, that's kind of his background, where he comes from, is that video and study versus maybe having played the game. Because I know there's a lot of people who are like, well, I played the game, I'm great. Or like, I need someone in my organization who's played the game before. Ryan clearly hasn't had that experience at the higher levels.
Yeah, well, first of all, Ryan and I met when Ryan was coaching with the Sioux Greyhounds. He was the assistant coach and ran the power play with that record-breaking team that broke the all-time record wins in the OHL. And I was working for Iceberg, which is video and analytics. As you know, I used to be a salesperson for Iceberg as one of my other, 20 jobs that I've had throughout my hockey career. And so when we met, I could see that he thought the game at a high level and was big into video and big into analytics and all that stuff. And so we stayed in touch, and then Jason and him became friends. They coached against each other. Actually, the year Jason won a national championship, he beat Ryan's team, I believe, in the semifinals. So they talk trash all the time about that, which is a great thing. But yeah, Ryan, I think hockey has this big perception. It's one of the only sports that does it, that you have to have had played to be a good coach. And it couldn't be further from the truth. Now, listen, some of the guys that I know that played are some of the best coaches, but there are also some, I also have buddies that played that are not good coaches. And same goes for the other side. It's just whether you're a good coach or not. I mean, Wayne Gretzky was the best player ever, and he was a horrific coach. So I think that, tells you everything you know. And Ryan's huge into video. Obviously, that's where he got to start with the Islanders, and then, went to Toronto as a video coach as well. And so his ability to break down the game and show the kids. And I am a big believer that there's no better teaching tool in all of hockey than video. You can sit there and tell a kid till you're blue in the face that, that was your guy, or you should have shoulder checked or whatever. And when you show him on video, I feel like that's when the light bulb goes off a lot of times. And so Ryan thinks the modern day game. He coaches the modern day game. He's huge into video. He's huge into individual video, team video, and he's a big culture guy. The thing I can say is, he gets the best out of those players. He gets the most out of them, and they're willing to run through a brick wall for him.
Wonderful. Yeah, Gretzky's like the ultimate example.
Yeah,
Phenomenal hockey player, probably the best ever. And then train wreck of coaching. Two different skill sets for sure. So I'd love to dive into, so you've got all of these resources, and you've got, you said Tommy Malloy's in strength and conditioning.
full time. So he's there every day with our players. He tracks their food. He has different workouts based off of what each kid needs. So I mean, like when I was playing junior hockey, I was 135 pounds. So we have kids like that, and so Tommy will tailor their workouts, based off of whether they need to gain weight, lose weight, maintain weight, whether they need to get stronger. One thing we added this year, we added two things this year. We added a Proteus machine, and then we added this thing called the force plate. And everyone I've talked to in hockey, the force plate is one of the most important tools for hockey development, and it tracks your jump. The force plate tracks your jumping, and so then you're able to look at a kid's stride, and is he getting the power that he needs out of his stride. So our kids are tracked every week on the force plate. And so every workout is tailored to what your need is, not what the team is. So we just don't have like 22 kids going in there and doing squats and this. It's all hockey specific, and it's tailored to what you, the individual hockey player, need to become the best player you can be. And having a brand new state of the art weight room and a full time strength coach allows us to separate ourselves from every other junior team.
I love that. There was some research, and I think there's been a few research now into this, on like the value of the NHL combine, which is basically like it's pretty worthless.
Yeah.
And there were only two indicators that stick out of having any like positive correlation with future success. VO2 max,
Yep.
peak leg strength, which is standing long jump or vertical jump, aka the force plate. So love that. Go where the evidence is. I don't trust myself very much. So
yeah, absolutely. And like you can tailor the workouts. I learned this from my buddy Adam Nightgale, who's the head coach at Michigan State, and he was telling me how when he was at the program, that's where they got started on the force plate, and they were able to tailor Cutter Gaultier's jumping, and then tailor it to his stride. So then the workouts were based off of how to help him get more explosive and more fast. And so that was why we brought the force plate to Youngstown, and it's been a huge thing for our players.
I think Nightingale might have been on one of those papers.
Oh, really?
Or it was another Nightingale that was on
his
the
brothers
paper.
with the Sabres too. It could have been him too. Yeah.
Okay, so one of the Nightingales. Clearly, they're sharing some information back and forth.
Yep.
And then the second piece he said is he also have a full-time skills coach. I mean, even the NHL, like I looked at some of these AHL teams, they're all part-time guys that come and work with the kids or the young pros, but they're not there every day with the team. And you said Carl Linden's your guy?
Yeah. So, I mean, when you have the best owners in junior hockey, like I said before, and Murray and Bruce, they support you in ways that you never thought imaginable. And so, yeah, we were able to hire Carl Linden, this guy out of Sweden. He played hockey here and played college hockey in the U.S. And then he coached with Ryan Ward. I think they met when they coached at South Kent, which is actually where I played a lifetime ago. And so we were able to bring Carl on this year, and Carl is out of this world, an amazing skills coach and an amazing the way he looks at the game and breaks down the game. And so he did the exact same thing that Tommy did on the off ice side and in the weight room side on the skill side. So he would film each kid skating, he would film them shooting, he would film them stick handling, and then he would build bios for each kid and they would track it throughout the year, and then he would tailor their skill sessions based off what they needed. And so, you take a kid like Adam Patilla. He was a 20-year-old first year in the USHL, and I believe he had never scored 20 goals in his career. And he came to the USHL and led us in goals and scored like 25 goals or something crazy like that. And you were able to track his progress throughout the year and see, we would see him, taking a shot on the outside with his head down, and Carl would, able to work with him throughout the year on different things like getting his head up, getting, between the dots and stuff like that. And Carl tailors it to each kid based off what each kid needs with his stride, with his hands, with his shot, whether it's wall play, whether it's retrievals for a D, all that stuff. And he has little accounts for each kid that he goes and shows them clips from their games, clips where they were from the beginning of the year, how they progressed throughout the year, and then he tailors the drills and the workouts on the ice to that specific kid. And I mean, it is unbelievable the work that he does. And as someone who still coaches, it's one of those things where I'm constantly stealing stuff from him and from Ryan Ward to make my players better. And that's how you've hired the right people. And you can see the progress and the success that we've had in the 2 years that we've had, this coaching staff on board.
Perfect. I just looked up Carl's Instagram. Apparently he follows us, but I'm not an Instagram guy, so
There you go.
I
You
had
got to
no
get on
idea.
Instagram.
I'm gonna follow back. Thanks,
There
Carl.
you go. There you go. Carl's the
Maybe,
best.
maybe he's stealing shit from me and I'm giving it back. Who knows? That'd be cool. But awesome. I love that. Man, that's something I did, and I thought I was the weird one. Every like beginning of the year, I'd stick iPad on the ice and we do like videos like how are we doing on straight line, how are we doing on turns, and trying to figure out like weight distribution, posture, that kind of stuff. I love that he's doing that because it's such an easy tool that I just don't understand why we don't see it more often, where you could see these little basic skills. And this is stuff even like you can do with a remote skills coach, for example, or a development coach from far away of like, show me you shooting. What does that look like? Here, try this. Go noodle on your own. Like you want the kids to obviously be their best own coaches, but also there's a reason why coaches help even the best players. Tiger Woods had a swing coach, even though he was number one and an absolute dominant player for so long. Like these things help. So how do we best get there? Which is showing video, great tool, great pieces we know, and then tailoring all of our programs off ice and on ice to get those players exactly what they want. That is awesome. I mean, I'm getting excited. I mean, my son's 9 months and I'm already like, all right, when can I send him to Youngstown?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, we wanted to make it the best, junior organization in the world, and where everybody wanted to go, and we're getting there. We're not all the way there yet, and but yeah, the game is so good now. The USHL has never been better. It's the best junior league in the world. It's not even close. And there's a reason we lead in NHL draft picks every year. The USHL does. And we wanted to make it the best place in the USHL to give these kids, every tool that they can to be the best. And so far, it's we're having success.
Yeah, we need those KHL and SHL draft picks next.
There you
So there's another interesting fact that we haven't really gone into yet, but the fact that you're remote as a GM, like you're not in Youngstown on a day-to-day basis. Yet I would say that's probably an advantage to you and the organization being remote. What does that look like? Like why have you not moved to Youngstown?
Well, so everything nowadays, especially for GMs in the hockey world, is remote. I coached a few years ago in Muskegon before I joined Youngstown. I coached 2 years in Muskegon in the USHL, and our GM was from Iowa. And I believe the Seattle Kraken GM is out of Detroit, and everything's remote now because, with computers, you have all your meetings online, you have your Zooms, and then, a big chunk of being a GM is scouting. And so, I do all my scouting when I'm on the road, coaching with my Fox Motors team. And so I get to, in person, I'll make about I'd say, 40% of the games. I make all the Muskegon games. I make all the USA games, and then I'll get to about 10 games in Youngstown a year. Um, and so I make it down to Youngstown about once a month. But at the end of the day, we want to let our coaches coach, and so our coaches get to coach every day, and I don't need to be there watching practice every day. Every game is streamed online, so I watch every game online, and then I get the analytical report the next day from our analytical companies that we work with, and so I see everything, and that's how Jason and I GM is remote, and it's just how it is nowadays in hockey. You don't need to be there for every game in person. We do the drafting. We'll be there for the draft. We have our draft next Monday and Tuesday, so we'll be in town from Saturday to Tuesday for the draft. Um, and I was there I didn't miss one playoff game, so I've been in Youngstown 3 times in the last 3 weeks with the playoffs going on. But yeah, everything's remote nowadays, and just obviously the coaching staff needs to be in town and needs to live in town, and so it's really it's really great. I get to my wife is from Grand Rapids, so and I'm gone every weekend, and she supports me, and I have an amazing supportive wife, and so it allows me to still not make my family up and move, and it makes the job a lot easier.
Yeah, that's the most important piece, right? Supportive wife.
Absolutely.
Everything else crumbles.
Yeah,
That is
yeah.
the pillar holding up the junior hockey coach, GM, etc.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, you have to have the right wife. My first year coaching full time, I made 12,500, and we had 2 young kids, and so I had a newborn, like a few months old, and luckily she had a job that allowed us to support us, until I started, making okay money and was able to get multiple jobs in hockey, before I got, the singular, full-time job, with Black Bear Sports Group, and being the GM of the Phantoms. And, for over 10 years now, I've been gone, every weekend essentially. And she never complains. And she's my biggest fan and my biggest supporter. So it makes it a lot more enjoyable and easier to do.
Yeah. Shout out to all the hockey wives,
Yeah,
girlfriends, fiancés, etc. You're the backbone.
absolutely.
Without you, we're nothing.
Yeah.
Um, another thing I want to dive into is the fact that you're coaching, but you're not just coaching the same team every single year. You're actually doing 2-year stints. What's the rationale between following a team from U15 to U16 every single time and then cycling back rather than I just always do U15s?
Yeah, so I coach U15, U16, because those are the two. The phase one draft every year for the USHL is the U15 year, and then the second highest draft age is the U16 age. And so those are the two ages that I wanted to stay in, so that I can, like I said earlier, is I want to do my scouting when I'm on the road, um, coaching my midget team. And so the 2 year stint comes in that I felt that what I was seeing when I was just doing 1 years was every year I'd have to teach these kids all over, in my opinion, how to play hockey, right? The kids, you get them at U15 and they can skate well and shoot well, and stick handle, but they don't know how to play hockey. And so what I've noticed doing 2 year stints is that the second year I can refresh it real quick. They get it, everything that I taught them in year one. And now for the rest of the second year, now I'm teaching them, skill stuff and little things here and there, and really taking their game to that next level. And so, I thought when I got the job, I would have just stayed, at U15 every year because it's the phase one draft. And then I just felt like I could help these kids a lot more if I did 2 year stints. So I did 2 years with the 05s, 2 years with the 07s, and then I'll have the 09s for 2 years. And so I switched with one of the Fox Motors owners is Travis Richards, who had a great pro career, played on the Olympic team. Um, him and I switch every 2 years. So he had the 08s for 2 years. I'll have the 09s for 2 years, and then he'll go down and take the 2010s for 2 years. And so I just really feel that second year of coaching a team, um, you get that added benefit of just refreshing the important things you taught them in year one, And then now you can start going a lot more in those little things and those nitpicky skill stuff that you can teach them to really elevate their game to the next level.
Yeah, the kids know you too. Like for me, I don't use a whiteboard, so kids got to get used to that. That second time, that second year, makes a huge difference. And just understanding you, and then you understanding them. You don't have to feel it out for a little bit of like, how does this player best learn? All of that. I think there's a ton of benefits. And like you said, like usually the first time you get a player, like even for me, I'm doing high school, so I'm getting them at 14. And it's just like, okay, you may have some okay skills, but you have no idea what the heck's going on out here. Like how all of these things move together. Like we talked about earlier, it comes back to like scanning and awareness and going from there. It could be a tough one. Um, Last kind of piece I wanted to touch on, and then I'll open it for anything that you want to bring to the table beyond what we've kind of talked on here. Is just TPH. I know you worked with TPH. Now you're kind of just running the station out there, but used to be the head of the skills department, setting up these sessions. You know, what did that look like, and how did you learn through that, or what are some of the key takeaways?
Yeah, I mean, that was one of those ones where I learned on the job. When I was coaching in Muskegon, my main job was I would do all the video and analytics with the forwards, and I ran the skill skates, and I really had no history of being a skills coach. So, the best thing we have nowadays is you have the internet, and um, hockey's one of those industries. It's just like I used to be in the restaurant, the bar industry, and if you don't steal ideas, you're not doing your job. And I feel hockey's that same way. If you're not stealing your ideas and evolving every year, you're not doing your job. And so, I use the online platforms that we have to find drills to see how that would suit for the different individual players. I use Instagram. Instagram's such a great tool, um, for especially for skills. And so I used that, and for 2 years, I ran the skills in Muskegon, and then, and so yeah, when I took it over at TPH, I had to build that in, and TPH has a great platform of their own blended skills, um, that they give us of what they want us to work on throughout the year, like 1 foot cuts and punch turns and all those things. But then I also wanted to add in my own element of um, things that I thought were important in the game of hockey, and things like lateral crossovers and stuff like that that translate in scanning and shoulder checking, and things like using a laser pointer with different colors for a kid's got to keep his head up to shoot it and name the color of the laser pointer, and different things like that that I thought translated the game. Like one of the best things I learned, Mike Knuble, who played in the NHL for forever, like 1,100 games. He was Ovechkin's line mate. He's one of my good friends. We've coached together for years. I coached both of his kids. He's been my assistant the last few years. One of the things I learned from him is teaching kids to catch the puck with one hand on their backhand. Right, your top hand controls everything, and if you can catch a puck with one hand on your backhand, it's going to help you so much more at catching it with two hands. And so stuff like that. And so I incorporated my first year, like almost every warm up drill, we made the kids catch pucks with one hand on their backhand. And so, and so those were the things that I brought to the table, that I thought could separate myself from everybody else, or things I shouldn't even say that. I should say that things that I thought were more important for kids, that I added um, into the blended skills and all the skills that TPH have. And then the biggest thing that I'm a big believer in when it comes to shooting is one timers, one timers, one timers, and for me it's snapshot one timers. Right, besides Ovechkin and Stamkos, there isn't not too many guys scoring on slap shot one timers, but the goalies are so big and athletic nowadays. I believe I read an article that 20% of the goals, or right around 20% of the goals in the NHL are one timers, and that doesn't count tips and rebounds. And so you got to be able to one time a puck. And so I'm huge in the shooting aspect, for one timers. So those are the things that I brought to the table when I was the director of skills at TPH. Um, and I thought it was things that were transferable to the game of hockey when these kids are going to get older. And my job as a coach is to get those kids ready for juniors and college and pro. And so those were the things that I thought, and that's what I brought to the table. And it seemed to go well for the 2 years that I did it, and I loved it. And it was just, another cap in the feather of things that I've done in my coaching career. I've held so many different positions in different fields. Like I said earlier, I sold analytics for Iceberg at one point for a few years. So, I think being that director at TPH just, taught me more about the game. I taught myself just as much as I taught those kids.
Best way to learn something is to go teach it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. I was actually laughing super hard about the one-handers because that's something I do with my high school team. I'm like, if you could figure out, like, truly when you catch a puck, it's with one hand. It's whether it's your bottom or your top. The other hand is just there for added stability. If you can do it with the top hand, I mean, you're gonna have a lot more success because you can dampen a puck so much better, which is like how the forces reverberate through the stick. And I find the biggest value in that is players figuring out the right blade angle on contact. Like if you slow down video of like players catching the puck, like no matter what it is, someone who's good at catching the puck always catches their blade pretty much in a neutral position. And there's so many kids that'll have it one way or the other. But even with like a small catch, like it still starts neutral where the puck first hits and then it gets caressed. It's something like it's a small detail, but it makes the world of difference in how you can move pucks. You can get hips around pucks. You can move it to a spot that's away from pressure, that you've scanned for. And you're like, oh, this is gonna be the best place to put the puck. Where do you position it off the catch? So I'm a huge proponent. So Mike Newell, tip of the cap. That was fantastic ad. Um, Covered a lot of ground here. We're coming up here on our time. Is there any details that we should dive in a little bit deeper on?
I mean, it's the Hockey IQ podcast. So anything, talking about, hockey IQ and how do we make it better? Like I feel, and you hear people talking a lot of times nowadays, these kids are more talented physically than we've ever been, right? Like they're faster, they're more skilled, they shoot it harder with the sticks. Um, but with IQ being the most important thing, how do we keep teaching that and teaching that and teaching that? And that's what we need to find in hockey. Um, it's weird. I have um, different beliefs and stuff like that. Like, I'm a big thing that I think kids should play every position until Bantams. Just different things that we can help these kids become smarter hockey players, because the thing that's different about hockey is you can be the worst student ever and be a genius on the ice, and you can be a genius in the classroom and not very smart on the ice. And so it doesn't correlate. A lot of it you're born with, but we can definitely help it. And that's the stuff at the grassroots and the younger ages, right up through youth hockey, that we need to, you know, to to help these kids to make them better hockey players. Um, you have to hold kids accountable. One of the things that drives me the nuts about youth hockey, and pretty much all levels, is every level besides college and NHL shouldn't be results oriented, right? Like you should coach every game to win, but it shouldn't be results oriented. And that's one thing I tell people as a coach is I don't care if you scored, if you did everything wrong. When you get back to the bench, I'm going to put my foot up your butt and yell at you and hold you accountable. And same token on the other side, if you do everything right and get scored on, I don't care. And so my job is to teach you how to play the game the right way. And that's one thing as coaches that we need to do is like, I feel that kids get back to the bench and their coach is like, great job, Johnny, great goal. No, Johnny should have passed the puck 5 times and he had his head down the whole time that he did that. Don't tell Johnny, great job. You need to yell at Johnny and hold Johnny accountable so that when Johnny gets to U15 or Johnny gets to the USHL, he actually knows how to play hockey and he just isn't more physically gifted. And so that's how we can help the game and make them better hockey IQ players.
Yeah, hold them accountable. Like I love the micro goals. Like for those players, especially that are a little bit above the level of play where they can start like toying around with things, just giving them micro goals. Like maybe a defenseman who can really skate the puck but is a little shy about it. Like, okay, your goal is to go from end to end 3 times this game. And just getting them in the habit of doing things that eventually they're gonna need to do, which is a willingness to lug the puck up. Like, I mean, but I mean, we can pick on the best players, but little unrealistic sometimes. But like Cale Makar at the NHL is going end to end with the puck and scoring and creating chances. Like being like defensemen that just can skate the rink and being involved are absolutely massive. Or like, how do you make a player better? Like, okay, F2 drive to the net. Does it always result in a point for you? No. Does it result in good habits and space creation that'll eventually lead to future success and people wanting to play with you and coaches wanting to put you out there? Like, obviously coaches want goals and assists, but they also want players that make life easier. Going back to your point earlier, like making your teammates better. And one of those ways is sometimes not even touching the puck and just your movement out there.
Absolutely.
You and I can pound some tables now.
Yeah, I could talk this stuff all day. Yeah, it's the stuff I love to talk about, and we could stay on this podcast for 2 hours. And so there's just, we need 95% of the people in the hockey world are great coaches and they're great people. And so, we need more people teaching kids the right way and holding them accountable. And it's the best game in the world, and it's how we take it to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. Also looked up Carl. Apparently he's been a IQ subscriber since 2022. So go figure.
Well, you got to get him on the podcast then, because he's quiet. He's Swedish. He's quiet. And so I don't know if he would come on, but I'm telling you, man,
he needs to expand his horizons too, just like the players that he's talking about. Yeah.
He is out of this world. And I don't think we're going to have him for very long, because I think, unfortunately, he's going to be in the NHL very soon.
I heard there's some openings in Columbus.
There you go.
Keep him in Ohio. I'm biased.
There you go. I like it.
Awesome. Ryan, this was fantastic. Thanks for coming on, sharing your expertise. What's the best way if people want to get in contact with you? Probably don't like give tips every week to Ryan on players, but reach out, talk some hockey might be okay.
Well, absolutely. My emails are Kosecki at youngstownphantoms.com. That's RKOSECKI at youngstownphantoms.com. Email me. We'll exchange phone numbers. And it's one of those things where I tell parents all the time, call me before you make a decision, and I wish, it's what I do for a living. And, I wish more people would reach out with questions or concerns before they make a decision, thinking they know what's best for their kid. Or people that are involved in hockey like yourself that just want to talk hockey. I love talking it, and I love learning. And so reach out anytime.
I just hope Columbus can bring you a Sasha every year, but it might be unrealistic.
He is a special
player.
So the reason we got Sasha was it was in Columbus. They were hosting a Tier 1 event, and I was there coaching our Fox Motors team. And I stayed to watch our U16 team, which that year was the 06s. And so I'm watching the game, and I see this D go side to side in about 2 seconds. And I was like, man, that's pretty impressive for an 06. And then I saw him do the same thing, and I was like, man, this kid's pretty good. And then I saw him take a one-timer that was better than 50% of the NHLers. And I was like, man, this NHLer or this 06 is pretty impressive. And I looked up the kid and saw that he was an 07.
Not an 06.
Oh my goodness. Put him in our group chat, and the rest is history. And, we tendered him about a month or two later. And he, Jason had seen him play that summer and knew who he was. And, so we tendered him about a month later. And, in my opinion, he's a top 10, top 5 NHL pick next year. And, he's going to play the game for a long, long time. And so love kids like that.
Like I said, keeping everyone in Ohio.
There you go.
I love it.
All right.
All right. Thanks, Ryan. Take care.
Thanks for having me on.
That concludes this week's episode. Thanks for joining us here at Hockey IQ. If you haven't already, take a quick moment to hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, and drop a review. If you want to be a great teammate, even recommend us to a friend. You can follow us at Hockey's Arsenal on Twitter and Instagram. Check out the website, hockeysarsenal.com, where you can subscribe to the weekly newsletter. You won't regret it. Catch you beauts here next week for a brand new episode.